The breaking news video I saw just a little bit ago is pretty disturbing because it shows a politician at a lectern on the Senate floor, and in a flash he keels right over and panic ensues. And in just a minute I'll show you that video and reveal who it was. But first I want to talk about the inconvenient truth. The same truth that everyone is thinking when they see the headline of the story that reads, 77-year-old. First off, I am very happy to report that the person is doing well and in good spirits, and he said he appreciates all of the medical staff and is eager to return to work. So that is good, but this is yet another event that reveals the inconvenient truth that I speak of and begs the question, are old people bad for American politics? Full disclosure, I think at a certain but hard to identify point, the answer is definitely yes. In fact, I was way ahead of Nancy Pelosi and George Clooney in expressing concerns about an 80-year-old Joe Biden and his ability to appear strong enough to win over voters. And sadly, I was right, and I think Joe's blunder to run for re-election, despite his promise otherwise, helped clear a path for Trump's win. And we see how that turned out. And I think Mitch McConnell should have immediately stepped down after his first concerning episode, or his second, or should have already been comfortably retired before both of them. There is no shortage of videos out there showing aging politicians in very vulnerable spots, and I'm going to show you the latest one in just a few seconds. But I also want to show you this CBS report that perfectly represents the pros and cons of having super seniors in office.
How old is too old to work in government? But it is a question that's been on the minds of many Americans in recent years. By the way, age can mean life experience, knowledge, and the kinds of insight that are unique to having a long lens on the human condition. But it can also entail health issues, acuity struggles, and the general slowdown that tends to come during the sunset years, as they call them.
True. So for the bigger picture is what is our ability to trust our politicians once they kind of get beyond a certain age and do their jobs to the fullest.
So what's the discussion there on Capitol Hill? Should age be a factor here as far as limiting our senators and our members of Congress when it comes to leadership?
Because you need long tenured relationships. You need decades of knowledge because you have to craft policy on obscure and challenging things. You need a lot of life experience. You need a lot of institutional memory. This is just the type of job you want somebody who's been around 30, 40, 50 years for. And relationships go so far in Washington, and people who've been around 30, 40, 50 years have some long tenured relationships. But it also requires presence. You have to be on the floor of the House or Senate to vote. You can't do so remotely. It is a physically taxing job. It doesn't look that way on TV, but you get 10 to 20,000 steps a day working in Congress. 10 to 20,000 a day. Not easy for those who have mobility challenges.
And with that said, let's have a look at today's breaking story. It came to my attention through a post by Republicans Against Trump that read, 77-year-old Mississippi Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hosemann collapsed on the Senate floor this morning. Lieutenant Governor Hosemann is doing well and in good spirits. He appreciates all of the medical staff and is eager to return to work. Hannah Milliite, Hosemann's communication director, said in a statement.
These are multi-year payouts. Each of these has several more.
Dilbert.
Senator Johnson for a motion to recess. So moved. All in favor say aye. No.
Where's Nick?
He's right there. He's right here.
We've got an artist.
Good.
We did. We recessed. Cut the camera.
I am glad that he is doing well, but I will again confess that I am a bit of an ageist when it comes to our highest offices. In a nation where the average retirement age is 64 and life expectancy is only 77, I'm comfortable in stating a preference for leadership that is a bit closer to peak physical and cognitive performance. And if you disagree, I'm happy to hear you out, so just leave a comment below and I'll read it after my nap. Meanwhile, if you are that person who is looking for a sign that the old guard is changing, I will leave you with this clip from a Boston public television program that signals there is a youth movement happening in politics.
Seniors have huge voting power. And so I think political parties, everyone of all stripes, are reluctant to say something, imply something that might offend an incredibly powerful, reliable voting bloc. So that piece, I think, is real. Whether it's appropriate or not kind of doesn't matter. It's a political reality. The second piece is there are signs of hope. The median age of the House has gone down, not insignificantly. Look at, even though he's not my favorite person, the Speaker, the Minority Leader, age-wise, right? Those are big shifts. We now have a Gen Z member of Congress. If you look at state legislatures and city councils around the country, you're seeing folks in their 20s and 30s getting elected. The pipeline is there. Whether or not there's the generational shift at the top to create room for folks to move up is a whole different conversation. But I think we'd be doing a disservice to your viewers if we didn't point out that there is this bubbling energy of folks in their 20s, 30s, 40s who are anxious to serve and who are maybe at a slower pace than I might like, but are getting in there and making inroads in public service. So it's not all doom and gloom.